So, what if you could have an AI as your personal co-pilot? Something that helps you solve really complex problems, the kind that impact our everyday lives. Well, today, we're going to dive into a pretty amazing case study that shows exactly that, how AI and human expertise are teaming up to tackle a super critical engineering challenge, one that has a direct impact on public health.
Okay, let's bring this down to earth with a real-world problem. Just imagine for a second. You're an engineer, and you've got this huge decision to make. How tall does this new factory chimney need to be? And look, this isn't just some abstract math problem. Getting this wrong isn't just a mistake, it's a real public health risk.
All right, so the answer to that question, it lies in the pretty complex field of environmental engineering. The whole challenge here is making sure all those harmful pollutants coming out of the chimney don't just, float away and land in someone's backyard. They need to disperse safely, way up high in the atmosphere, far away from where people live and breathe.
And I want to be super clear, this is not a drill. It's not some hypothetical problem from a textbook. We're talking about real communities, real people, and very real health risks from pollutants like carbon monoxide and sulfur dioxide. Just one tiny miscalculation could mean dangerous levels of these gases ending up in our neighborhoods, our schools, even our playgrounds.
So it turns out engineers are actually facing two different versions of this problem, kind of like two sides of the same coin. On one hand, if you're building a brand new facility, your main job is to figure out the perfect chimney height from scratch. But on the other hand, for a factory that's already up and running, the job changes. It becomes all about monitoring, making absolutely sure the pollutant concentration down on the ground stays within safe limits.
Now, instead of getting totally bogged down in all those manual calculations, which, trust me, are intense, the expert in our case study did something different. They brought in an AI assistant to act as a co-pilot. Let's see how this really powerful partnership actually worked.
And get this, the prompt the expert gave the AI was incredibly simple. There were no crazy complex instructions. They basically just said, here's the goal, and ask the AI to generate the code to handle the entire calculation, from A to Z. So you might be wondering, how in the world does an AI even begin to tackle a task that complicated? Well, it all comes down to this really brilliant problem-solving strategy, one that's at the very heart of both engineering and computer science.
This strategy is called decomposition, and it's actually super intuitive. Think about it. If you're trying to cook a really complicated meal, you don't just throw everything in a pot at once, right? Of course not. You break the recipe down into smaller, manageable steps, and that is exactly what the AI does here. It takes this one massive, scary calculation and splits it into smaller, bite-sized pieces that it can actually solve.
So the AI put this whole strategy into action. It looked at the problem and broke it down into 5 key building blocks. It created a separate little program or function for each piece of the puzzle. We're talking everything from calculating how the gas temperature changes, to figuring out how high the plume will rise, and even pinpointing the exact spot on the ground where the pollutant concentration will be at its highest. Okay, so the AI has all these individual building blocks. It solved all the little mini problems. But, and this is where it gets really cool, it didn't just stop there. It didn't just hand over a pile of parts, it went a huge step further and actually assembled them into a single, powerful, and super user-friendly tool. What it created is something called a macro. The best way to think about it is like a shortcut on your phone or computer. You press one button and it kicks off a whole sequence of actions automatically. In this case, one click runs all 5 of those complex calculations, in the perfect order, to give the engineer the final answer they need, just like that. And here is the absolute game changer. The AI was proactive. The human expert never actually asked for a one-click button. The AI anticipated what the user would need and just built it. That's the difference between a simple tool and a true co-pilot. It's not just following orders, it's making the expert's job faster, easier, and way more efficient. Okay, this is all incredibly impressive, right? It almost sounds like magic. But it also brings up the big question, the one that's on everybody's mind right now. If AI can do all this, what's left for the human expert to do?
So let's just tackle that question head-on. In this new world with these incredibly powerful AI co-pilots, what does it even mean to be an expert anymore?
The answer, it turns out, is a clear and resounding no. The human expert is not obsolete, not even close. You can think of it like this. The AI might be the powerful engine, but the human expert is still firmly in the pilot's seat. They're the one with the domain knowledge to ask the right questions in the first place. They're the one with the critical eye to check the AI's results and make sure they're accurate.
And most importantly, they have the wisdom to understand the real-world context and what's at stake. The expert guides, the expert verifies, and ultimately, the expert takes responsibility.
You know, this quote from the source material really just says it all. The effectiveness of these amazing technologies really depends on you understanding what you're doing. The AI is only as good as the person guiding it. It's that deep, human knowledge that turns this thing from just a cool gadget into a genuinely life-saving tool.
So, the big takeaway here is that the future isn't about AI replacing experts. It's about AI empowering them. It's a partnership. With an AI co-pilot, we can solve problems faster and, honestly, better than ever before. So I'll just leave you with this one thought to chew on. What's a complex problem in your world that you'd be ready to solve if you had an AI co-pilot right by your side?